Well, good afternoon, folks. This is Ron Gallagher at PAMIC, and you are here for the live call-in with the Pennsylvania Insurance Department. We're just going to wait another minute or so as more attendees start getting into the system. Okay. Seeing that the rate of people coming onto the call is slowing down a little, we might as well get started. I want to thank everybody once again for listening in to this weekly call. There is one bit of news that I will share with you is that we will now, at least for next week, we will not have a call next Monday. That would be the 4th, I believe, but there is a planned call on the 11th, so mark your calendars. PAMIC will also put out a notice, and we'll share that with the Insurance Federation and Sam Marshall as well, to remind folks that we're not having a call on Monday the 4th, but we will be reinstating that again on the 11th. As usual, this call is an opportunity for you, the audience, to ask questions of the department on really any issues that you may be having in the marketplace as we go through the changing conditions with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's my pleasure, as usual, to introduce Michael Humphreys, the Chief of Staff at the Insurance Department. And Mike, the microphone is yours.
Great. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here again with you, Ron and Sam. And wanted to, at the very start, again, let everyone know that the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen is the preferred way to submit the question, as it's a little bit harder to track the text questions or the chat room function questions. And I would, again, ask you to go ahead and start submitting those, because we do not have a very long agenda today. I think we'll probably be able to get people out about 3:30 again. But again, that depends on the number of questions. So real quickly, we wanted to kick off with a couple updates. The first would be the temporary licensing program that we announced last week. We'll turn that over to Chris Monahan to give it.
Thanks, Mike. So the testing centers that we use around the Commonwealth remain closed, and they will at this point up through at least May 15th. And so the need to allow people to continue to get into our market without testing is obviously there. And because of that, as Mike said, we've now gone with our temp licensing process. It's the first in my 31 years as a regulator that I can recall us doing this, but these are absolutely the most unique times too since I've been a regulator. We've published guidance for temp licensing. It's pretty specific. It was published in the PA Bulletin, and it's also on our department website. It's Notice 2020-12. But if anybody has questions beyond what's in that notice or what was in the press release, you can reach out to me or to my licensing staff by going to the department's website. But essentially what it allows is for people without testing to get licensed, as long as they still go through certain steps. They must have a sponsoring insurance company which is licensed to conduct business in the state of Pennsylvania. They have to have an active appointment with that company. The sponsoring insurance company will be the one responsible for actually making application to the Commonwealth for the individual's temporary licensing. You still need to have 24 pre-education credit hours before coming in, which those credit hours can be given through a department-approved vendor, but also we have opened up for the sponsoring company to give the pre-education testing or pre-education courses, which is a first here. The $55 licensing fee, which the temp license lasts for 180 days. If during that 180-day period, the individual decides, if we can get the testing centers up and running, to convert to a full license, then all the background information, the application, the licensing fee, all that will be waived, and all that would be required would be the test to convert to the full license. If it's within 6 months after expiration of a temp license, then we would still waive the $55 fee, but the application would have to be run back through again from the standpoint of the fingerprinting. But any education and things like that that were already taken would convert over. We plan on having this go live later this week. The testing that's being conducted by our vendor right now should only take another day or two, and then we'll be up and running. And it's anticipated that it would be about a 2.5 to 3 week process from start to finish for someone to make application, go through the pre-licensing education, and then get the temporary license issued. So there's a lot more details in our notice, but again, anybody who has questions can reach out to me or go to our licensing center with at the department's website, and we'd be happy to answer those questions. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. The next issue that we wanted to touch base on really quickly is a business interruption data call. I think many of you have already heard or been made aware that the NAIC is starting to pull one together for the states that would go out in the next couple of weeks. Looks like it would be pretty generic in terms of on business interruption, business owners policies, looking at numbers of claims filed, claims closed with payment, claims closed without payment type of data. It doesn't look long in the initial draft that I've seen. The group is kind of working on making final edits to that, and then we'll be reaching out to states to have states sign on, because there, as many of you multi-states know, there are a number of states that are kind of going out and doing their own thing. And this is one of the areas where we thought having the data would be helpful, in that working through the NAIC on a more uniform process with set questions for each company, so as not to have you answer the same questions in 50 different versions, would be beneficial to both us and the industry. So I don't have a definitive timeline on that yet, but we do anticipate signing on when that opportunity is made available to us in the next couple of weeks. Moving on to the next issue, and this just gets to an update from last week on the plan to reopen Pennsylvania. As many of you know, the administration is studying the conditions first in North Central and Northwest regions, with the target of moving from quote unquote red to yellow on May 8th. In that the administration will continue to use data to make determinations with the Department of Health on when other parts of the state will slowly open up, and providing guidance on what opening up means. Last week we shared the Department of Health's guidance for those essential employers that continue to work during this period now, and kind of we've talked about temperatures and procedures to take temperatures a few times now, but just expect additional guidance, I think, on what that would look like coming from the administration, coming from health, as we continue to move closer to larger areas of the state being opened up in the future. With that, we don't have any additional guidance that we have issued over the last week, and there really isn't anything that we would also kind of suggested internally as an agenda item that we wanted to put on your radar for discussion. Recognizing that we will next have a meeting in 2 weeks, wanted to give anyone the opportunity for questions now. Of course, you're continued to be able to email those to us as we go. First question we have is, will all insurers receive this survey, or only the largest of the commercial insurers? John, I don't know if you have a good sense of this. I thought it was intended for the industry at large, but I'd have to go back to double check that unless you know off.
Yeah, that was my understanding of it. I think the NAIC and the like, I think they're still kind of figuring out exactly the best way to implement it. But my understanding was it'd be pretty much all carriers.
Very good. Other questions or issues that folks want to put on our radar or talk about today or have us think about in terms of future guidance?
Hey, Mike, Sam Marshall here, just as a co-host. But two of them that come in, and I can't quite figure out how to work the question machine. But one is on the fingerprinting requisite with temporary licenses. We did hear from a number of companies saying that, you know, what a lot of states have for the period of their emergencies, waived the fingerprinting requirement or at least delayed it. Any thought to the administration doing that here?
We do not have an intention to do that. And Chris, I'll let you or John speak a little bit further on kind of the statutory requirement to have it.
Yeah, this is Chris. No, Mike's absolutely right. We did vet this through legal. We considered everything that we could do in order to expedite the process, and we understand that a significant portion of the time frame, the 2.5 to 3 weeks that it takes from start to finish to issue a temp license, it is built off waiting for results for FBI fingerprinting. However, the statute really doesn't provide flexibility or even for the commissioner to waive that requirement. I don't know. John is on the call. I don't know if he wants to add anything further.
No, I think that's exactly right, Chris. I mean, you know, we're obviously doing our best to work with companies and work with agents, but you know, we are a little bit limited by what we can and cannot do. And so, I mean, this is the best way that we can accommodate at this point, and we have no intention of waiving the fingerprint requirement, mostly because we don't think that we can waive that requirement.
And this is Jody. It's my understanding that the fingerprinting facilities are still open during the crisis as well.
I guess there's a problem in how long it takes, but I mean, I would say the Commonwealth is, the governor's office under his emergency powers has waived other statutory notice, I mean, certainly in the workers' comp and done it for notarizations that are statutory requirements. There seems some leeway. It's something to think about, I hope. The other question that comes up, Mike, is you talked about going from red to yellow. We're operating as essential businesses, teleworking wherever we can, and obviously doing safe social distancing practices. But there are, in the health department's most recent guidance, there were a lot of rules and parameters set on all essential businesses, in particular the temperature taking that we talked about and some of those things. As regular businesses go from red to yellow, do you have any idea if the health department is going to continue all those conditions on essential businesses and extend them to regular businesses, or would we, within regions, be now subject to whatever the requirements are for regular businesses, which might be less than what they are now for essential businesses?
Thanks, Sam. And there's actually a couple questions coming in about kind of the reopening process and what that may look like. And we have not been provided information on what guidance may come next for essential employees or employers, and what that guidance is going to look like in terms of what practices need to continue at which of the color levels as the state continues to open up. So I think right now we need to wait and see what guidance continues to come out from DHS or DOH and the administration. And a related question is there any option to have the county groupings changed? And I think right now, the way the administration is looking at it is very data driven. So I think the data that we get from the counties and and through the Commonwealth is going to help determine the movement of different counties through the reopening process. There was one question. Someone thought that they saw carriers which have little or no commercial lines would not need to respond to the survey. I think that's something that the NAIC group continues to look at. I don't know if it's reported that it's zero commercial lines business, whether they'll be required to report on claims that they wouldn't have because they didn't write business in the first place. But I think that's something that we can take back to the extent there's additional conversations on when and who it'll be addressed to. Next question, which is currently the last, so again, a plug to submit any additional questions. Any initial thoughts on how the reopening impacting non-pay cancellation or in non-renewal and related underwriting action? I think this is one where we'll continue to monitor again as we move forward. Obviously, the impact even of reopening, it'll be determined. It'll be kind of almost like a business by business situation where, I mean, we have record numbers applying for unemployment. So whether it turns from red to yellow tomorrow, I don't know that would have, well, it certainly wouldn't have an immediate impact on those substantial numbers. But I think it's one that we want to continue to monitor and see how the situation plays out. Again, the guidance that we've provided was to provide as much flexibility as the companies can. And obviously you all have done that. We've received a substantial number of filings through Shannon Shop now that provides significant flexibility and payback benefits to the consumers. And we have appreciated the conversations that our teams have had with you. I've been on a couple myself as we kind of work our way through some of those programs and how they can be rolled out, how they should be filed. So I think that's one that we need to continue to be flexible given the unprecedented nature of kind of the situation that we find ourselves in. Other questions, comments, concerns? Anyone else, and I'll open it over to the PID side. Is there anyone that has had some conversations that thought it might be helpful to share with the group, or any issues that maybe I missed in our initial agenda that we provided? While we give folks an additional minute or so to submit questions.
Mike, this is Sandy, and I don't have anything particular on the insurance aspect, but in response to the question that someone asked about the reopening, whether businesses that can now start to work must comply with the rules for the essential businesses. There was late last week a governor's issuance on guidance for businesses in construction that are permitted to start on May 1st. And that document talks about businesses that are newly opened under this guidance complying with the requirements for the essential businesses. So it may be worth your while to take a look at that information. It's called Guidance for Businesses in the Construction Industry, permitted to operate during the COVID-19 disaster emergency.
Thanks, Sandy. As I remember that, it talks about kind of the number of employees in a given space, like if it's residential construction, the number of team members that could be in.
Correct.
Versus outside in it.
Correct. Yes.
Very good. Other questions? Okay. Question. Any issues with work comp carriers refunding premium to policyholders that have paid their annual premium in full and having requested their payrolls be lowered due to the crisis and therefore generate a credit on their premium term? This is an issue, Shannon and John, I'm going to pitch that over to you, recognizing that we just had these conversations, I think, at the end of last week when a carrier had brought it over to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is something that we're working through right now. We've seen a couple of different proposals, and Shannon, if she'd like to, she can talk about those. I think right now we're kind of getting our hands around it and figuring out what's the best way to go. We're trying to give guidance. We have given some guidance in other P&C areas. And, you know, the thing I would say is, you know, if you're thinking about doing this, reach out to us, let us know what you're thinking about, just so that we can kind of get an understanding of what you want to do, how you want to do it. Because we've seen a couple of different approaches right now.
Shannon, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, not a whole lot to add. I will just say that, you know, as we're thinking about workers' comp and all the things that are happening right now, we would anticipate that there's less of a payroll audit. We understand there's a lot of potential delays that people will allow, I'll say, a grace for lateness and getting the audits completed, which of course could result in having that understanding of how the overall premium should be reduced for a period for a company. So we understand that there are some things that are going to naturally happen to reduce the rates over time based on where we're at today. And so we're trying to take into consideration all of the things that are happening externally, all the things that are happening as far as the audits that would naturally reduce the premiums in the future. So we're really trying to be cognizant of not making any, I'll say, knee-jerk reactions with workers' comp especially. And that's why we really do appreciate the phone calls to talk us through exactly what the questions are, what the thoughts are in regards to a premium relief effort.
Okay, here's a question. With carrier solvency a critical regulatory responsibility of the PID, is there any thought by the PID to make a public statement on the harm on carriers that would result if mandatory coverage legislated for BI, where it clear that it was not intended to be covered and no premium was collected? I think this is another question that goes kind of to, obviously, the business interruption issue, the legislation obviously pending here and in many other states. We've been working to answer questions from legislators as they've come in, but as it's a proposal that hasn't come otherwise to us, it's one that we've just continued to monitor and haven't provided public statements on at this point. I think there's actually another question, but it looks like it might be in the chat function. So no, I can't find it. No, I think that was it. Any other questions?
Hey, Mike, Sam again. Just the one follow-up, because if our surety brethren are on this call, they'll ask me afterward. Is there any thought to on the requests that had come, we had made on behalf of the surety carriers, and we're running into it on the real estate side. While we have e-signature laws in Pennsylvania, we're seeing agencies, local and state agencies, who aren't accepting e-signatures. They still want wet signatures. Any thought to the governor putting out a encouragement, directive, whatever, to not only agencies, but all parties to say here, particularly during this emergency, use e-signature, not wet signature?
Thanks, Sam. That is one that we have now, with conversations with you and Lee Covington and his group, brought that to the governor's office to let them know that it's one that the industry has raised with us on a number of number of times, and has now provided a couple, I think, county governments or in counties where they're running into issues where they're the authorities are not accepting this on a electronic basis. So it's one that we're in communication with them about and letting them know as we hear from you all about it and get more specific in terms of the situations that you've been able to provide to us. But at this point, I don't have any additional update from that other than we've been in communication on it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, this is Ron Gallagher. That's all the questions we've had so far. We went just a little bit shy of 30 minutes. Sam, are there any closing comments you'd like to make?
No, just hope everyone is well, and to thank everybody on the call, especially the insurance department, for taking the time to do this.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And remember, the next call with the insurance department is now scheduled for May 11th. So please mark your calendars, and we'll be pushing out, as well as Sam, information to remind you of it. Once again, thank you to all the members of the senior staff and the attorneys at the department for being on the call and helping out. It's been very helpful, and we do appreciate you doing that for us. So Mike, you want to do any last goodbyes, and then we'll go.
I'd agree with the two of you, and also welcome your members through you or directly to let us know if there's issue items that they'd like to talk about on that next call. Obviously, that will be after May 8th, so I'm guessing that there's probably going to be additional guidance from the Commonwealth in terms of Department of Health standards and kind of how you bring back employees into the physical offices. So we'll be ready to talk about that sort of thing, but any other either NAIC or insurance items that come up between now and then too, happy to have you kind of suggest those items in the absence of any additional guidance that PID would issue between. So again, just really appreciate the open dialogue that we've been able to have through the two of you and with your members, and appreciate everyone continuing to participate. I think we've seen as many as 300 and now are down to 150, but part of that is the process of kind of reopening. So really appreciate everyone's time and hope everyone stays well.
Well, thank you very much.